Hey, 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 it's Tia, baby. And I am back with another video. So I'm going to do part two of the story that I spoke about in the previous video maybe a week ago or so. So I'm going to go where I left off. I believe, where did I leave off at? I left off when Chelsea and Hank became a couple. Once she broke up with Banner, once he admitted that he indeed was the baby father of the child, of the woman or girl that he cheated on Chelsea with. So the breakup, according to Chelsea, the breakup was very easy for her because Banner made it really easy for her because his attitude was very much like he didn't care. Like he kind of wanted Chelsea to go on about her business, and he pretty much was like, yeah, I'm the father of the child, and pretty much like that, like he just didn't care. It was like a whole flip flop. But that's the type of person Banner is. He is a true Gemini, if you believe in signs or whatever. Most Geminis are have split personalities, and he indeed was a true Gemini. Like one minute he, can be very cool and very sweet and nice and everything like that. And then the next minute he can be very cutthroat, and or you know, not a good person. So it made Chelsea decision a lot easier. However, she was still hurt by it because it's a whole child that was born, behind her back, So she was still hurt because that was her high school sweetheart, and she has been hurt so many times by her high school sweetheart because he was always in some girl's face. And there were times, for example, side note, there were times where Banner would tell Chelsea to basically play along that they're not together. So for whatever reason, I don't know why Chelsea went along with it, but I guess she was head over heels with him or madly in love with him. But high school kids, that's just what they do. And so he would do stuff like that to her. One minute, like I said, Banner was had a split personality. One minute he can be very charming or whatever. Next minute he can act like he don't want to be in a relationship with her. So that's it was like a roller coaster, like a hot and cold thing, after a while. And she had many times where she has cried over him. But back to the story. So she ended it with Banner, and it wasn't, now technically she was in a relationship with Banner, even though Banner, you know, pretty much wasn't in a relationship with Chelsea to the point where, it went only when it benefits him. I will say that. So technically, Chelsea cheated on Banner as well, with Hank. However, to be justifiable, Banner didn't claim her anyway after high school. Once they graduated high school, and every now and then, when it's benefiting him, he wouldn't claim her. So, you know, but to be technical, both of them cheated on each other. Let's just say that. But in Chelsea's defense, Chelsea was very much honest about Banner to Hank. Like, obviously because Hank let Chelsea use his phone to call Banner about a situation or whatever they were going through. So he was very much aware of Banner, because she let, once they got to know each other as friends, or just as associates growing into some type of friendship, she vented to him. She um, talked to him about her problems with him and what they went through and stuff like that. And he was a listening ear. And in Hank's mind, it's like he pretty much like Banner don't care about Chelsea, but Chelsea still had a heart. She kind of at times felt bad for talking to Hank while she was kind of in some type of situationship with Banner, but Hank was like, he don't care about. Hank was telling Chelsea he don't care about that Banner doesn't care about her. That if this is if this is if he loved, well, not if he loved her, but nobody gonna put you through something like that if he didn't, whatever. Pretty much like that, which is true. Um, because he's a man, so he would know what another man think or how another man think. But let's be clear, we were all, Hank was 19 at the time. I was 8. I mean, Chelsea was 18 at the time, and Banner was 18 at the time as well. So they were all, well, we were all kids because I know them. So this was fresh out of high school. So not fresh, but like maybe a few months after graduating from high school. So yeah, um, kids will be kids. So let's see. Um, so now Chelsea and Hank are together. So now, and like I said in the other video, Hank was, once Chelsea called Hank and told him what happened between her and Banner, that she ended it with Banner, and he confessed and everything, and she confessed to Hank that she wanted to be with him, that she had feelings for him and all that. The feelings were mutual because Hank did have feelings for her. He did like her very much, but not he wasn't he didn't want to be, it wasn't that he didn't want to be in a relationship with her. He didn't feel comfortable. He wasn't ready to be in a relationship with her because of two reasons. One, because Chelsea just broke up with, or officially ended the situationship. I'm gonna call it a situationship with um, her high school sweetheart. It was a relationship turned into a situationship with her high school sweetheart. That's the first reason. Second reason is because they will be dealing with a long distance relationship because Hank was in college in another state, as well as Banner was in a college in another state. But he was managing to get around with, other people and got them pregnant and stuff like that. But, whatever. And Chelsea remained home and went to college in the area. So he was skeptical about being in a relationship with Chelsea because of those two reasons. It wasn't that he didn't want to be with her, it was more so he didn't want to deal with a long distance relationship because he didn't want to have to deal with the possibility of Chelsea, getting paranoid about if he's doing something in school with someone else, um, the headache of not being able to see each other when they want because he's one place and she's at another place. And then also, he felt that Chelsea was in a vulnerable state because she had just recently broke up with her high school sweetheart. So he felt like the feelings that she felt was not genuine, that it wasn't coming from a genuine place, that he felt that it was just a vulnerable. However, Chelsea disagreed. She felt in her heart, she felt in her mind, she felt in her spirit that what she felt for Hank was genuine. And that she was convincing him that how she felt about him was indeed, she had a clear mind, like it wasn't no vulnerability or nothing like that. And she felt that the long distance thing will probably, she felt that it can work. She didn't want to take, it wasn't that she didn't want to take no for an answer, but she just didn't want to miss the opportunity. She wanted to see how it goes. Um, and she eventually convinced him to see how it goes. Now, mind you, Chelsea never begged him or anything, nothing. She just told him that her feelings for him were genuine. It wasn't vulnerability or nothing. She understood that the long distance thing would be a challenge, but she was willing to take on that challenge. He was reluctant at first because he didn't believe that it would, because she recently broke up with her high school sweetheart. And usually women or girls or whatever that just got out of a relationship, they're emotional. So they go by their emotions. And that's what he thought. And so, and then also, that's the reason why he left his, ex-girlfriend, because he didn't want to deal with a long distance relationship. So it wouldn't be fair to be with somebody else and still deal with a long distance relationship if he broke up with his ex. So, but he decided, he was like, he gonna give it a try, and he did. So let's fast forward to this present day. Chelsea, as an adult, looking back on that decision, her feelings for Hank was genuine and was indeed honest. However, a part of her was vulnerable because um, she did officially end things with her high school sweetheart. That at the time was her longest relationship. So, and I will explain why she had an ounce of vulnerability with her decision. So, um, Hank and Chelsea are officially together. Things were going well for a while, Um, they talked pretty much all the time. They saw each other when they could once he went back to school, and they saw each other a lot at work when he came home, um, and worked during the breaks. They would see each other then. On the weekends, sometimes when he had time, it was very much good relationship. She met his family. She met his mom. Fortunately, she was able to meet his grandmother before, unfortunately, his grandmother had passed. She met him. I mean, she met her, um, and his grandmother said she was really pretty, to Chelsea, that she was a pretty girl. So it was a positive interaction in an unfortunate circumstance. I will not relay what happened with his grandmother. I'm not going to go into that. But unfortunately, she had passed away not too long after that. Um, she also met his grandfather, his brothers. Well, not all at the same time, but his brother, one of his brothers, his youngest brother, lived with him at the time. So, and his brother was young, a lot younger than maybe in junior high school or maybe even elementary school. Um, Now, I would say this: Chelsea and his little brother did not have the best relationship when they first started dating, and I think it's normal because, at that time his brother was probably 12, 13, so he looked up to his brother Hank. So when he got into a serious relationship with, or an ongoing relationship with Chelsea, his little brother probably felt that Chelsea was taking him away from him, when that wasn't the case at all. That's not nothing Chelsea would do. But I can understand why he was, think that, because a lot of kids think that. When I was his age, even younger, or even as a teenager, I used to give my mom's boyfriends a hard time because they weren't my father. So I didn't want my mom. It was always me and my mom. So I didn't want my mom being with another man because they weren't my father, even though my father and I don't even have a relationship, or a close relationship at that. So I didn't grow up with my father, living with my father and all of that. I didn't have that close relationship with him, but I still didn't want my mom with somebody else. So that's normal. So, but me as a, that was normal, even though it wasn't right, because um but you protecting your parents. So that I understood, I can understand why he would do that to, treat Chelsea that way, because he looked he looked at Hank as his father figure, because their father wasn't in their lives like that. So, and it was a big, huge age gap with him and his little brother. So he was like a father to his little brother. And so this girl that he's seeing a lot, he's probably like, what is her agenda? Why is she taking? Why she's always here? And so he really did, make Chelsea feel very uncomfortable for a long time, a very long time. Even though Chelsea was persistent and tried her best to make a good impression on his little brother, and she still came around. But there were times where he would treat her so bad, or make her feel so uncomfortable, I would say, to the point where she was afraid to come in his house, because um, he would make her feel very unwelcome. And she just couldn't understand it, because she really did love Hank. The love, it started to grow into love. Um, Even though Chelsea wasn't always the best, girlfriend to Hank, she had her insecurities because of her previous experience with Banner. So she started to develop insecurities in relationships, thinking that, men, that the man is always going to cheat, and things like that, because she didn't have a good outcome with her first real love. And so she assumed, there were times on occasions where she would accuse Hank of possibly cheating on her. One, because they were in a long distance relationship, which is something that he feared when he told her he don't know if he want to do this because of the long distance thing. However, the insecurity started to flare up because of her, not healing from her previous relationship. But at the time, Chelsea didn't think about healing or anything like that. They were all teenagers. But as an adult looking back, she understands now that she should have, healed from her high school sweetheart and took some time to herself, got herself together, got her emotions together, and then, if the time was right, to see if things will, blossom with her and Hank. But she didn't, and it's okay. So, things were becoming rocky off and on with Hank and Chelsea because of her insecurities, and the long distance thing. Um, and, there were times where Banner would come in and out of Chelsea's life, because he wasn't over her. And then, there were times where Chelsea and Hank get into it to the point where they're not speaking, because the stresses of long distance, and also the insecurities of him possibly cheating, and then his addiction to, you know, gaming kind of interfered with the relationship. So instead of her, you know, handling it the most responsible way, she confided into Banner, you know, calling him, venting to him, and things like that. And that's not something you should do. But that's something she did, and Banner took advantage of that, pretty much. And there were times where Chelsea did not make good decisions, and she had cheated on Hank with Banner a few times, and also have cheated on Hank with two other guys in college. Um, that was around the first year of her relationship with Hank. So she was, you know, on a spiral, let's say. But Hank wasn't out the out wasn't you know, Mr. Goody Goody either, because he was also not faithful in college as well. He um, did something with another young lady in college, and he also had like an emotional affair with a girl in another girl in college. So he was doing some things in college as well. However, Chelsea did not like the feeling that she was feeling when she was doing that, because it wasn't something that she would do, but for some reason she did, which is why Hank was reluctant on being in a relationship with someone that literally just got out of a situationship, because stuff like this happens. But she, was a woman about it. She told Hank what happened. She told Hank everything. I mean, everything. She told him about Banner. She told him about the other two guys. Um, she did not have fellatio with the other two guys. Well, she did not have. Um, she did not have coitus with the other two guys. She had an oral transaction with those two guys, and she had coitus with Banner a couple of times. She told Hank everything, everything. He told her everything that he did. She was nervous, but she was grateful to tell him because it was a huge weight off her shoulder. Fortunately, Hank wasn't upset because he kind of knew that it would happen, because this is not because one, Chelsea did not have a lot of partners. She only had Banner was her first, and Hank was her second. So she did not have any other coitus partners but them two. Yeah. So, but the other two guys, she didn't have coitus with. She just had an oral transaction. If you know what an oral transaction is, then you know what I mean. So yeah. So he took it as that was her sowing her wild oats. So he wasn't upset. He was upset, but he wasn't upset. Like, he understood. So they worked through that. It was still a challenge, as years went on, because of the long distance thing and the trust thing, because she was still, even though she did what she did, she was still not happy with herself for what she did, and also um, the fact that she kept like communicating with Banner. They may not have done anything else anymore, but she still communicated with him whenever her and Hank are not speaking. But in her mind, she didn't feel like it was wrong because she didn't have feelings for Banner anymore. She was just venting to somebody familiar that was a guy, happened to be a guy. She really truly loved Hank, but sometimes things was not going well between her and Hank. So she would confide in him to get a male perspective or just to make Hank upset because she wanted Hank to feel what she was feeling, neglected and upset, you know. Still childish, but at that time they were in their early 20s and things like that. Not excuse, but you know, things like that. We all we all make dumb decisions, so it doesn't justify it. All right, so however, the thing is, Chelsea is very, very much honest with Hank. She tells Hank every time when she communicates with Banner. She's very transparent with him, very. Which I believe that's why Hank doesn't get too upset with Chelsea because he knows he can trust her because she tells him everything. But Chelsea don't feel that way about Hank because Hank is very private and he doesn't express himself as much as Chelsea would like. So because of that, Chelsea is on guard with him and feels like he is messing around because she's not she expects him to be transparent like she is transparent with him. Um anyway, so this is like so years down the road, Hank graduates from college, and then a year later, Chelsea graduates from college, um, as well as Banner. He graduates from college the same year Chelsea did. So it's not about me. And so yeah, that means Hank is coming home from college because he's done for good. He graduated and everything. So then he starts to work at the grocery store full time until he gets something that's in his field or close to his field. Things are going well. It's still kind of they have their ups and downs. You know, getting used to being around each other every day. Um, Getting adjusted with the his gaming addiction and just his way of handling things. Hank is more of a homebody and he doesn't like to go out a lot. Whereas though Chelsea never really liked to stay in the house. Even as a kid, she would never like to stay in the house. But she wasn't a party goer either, but she just liked the outdoors. So it was very much a huge challenge and an adjustment for Chelsea. However, even though Chelsea didn't like to stay in the house, she didn't mind going over Hank's house a lot as long as it was with him. But after a while, it gets tiring to just sit and go from one house to another. And you know, my Chelsea's mom really didn't care for Hank because he would always pick her up at night. He would wait, let the whole day go, and pick her up at night, and she felt that he was out with other women, and then just pick me up once he's done, which isn't the case at the time. Um, Hank didn't have a car of his own, um, so he had to wait until one was available. He had to wait until his grandfather wasn't using the the car, the van or whatever. It was a van at the time, so he had to wait, or had to wait for his aunt if she had, if she wasn't doing nothing, he would use her car, one of his aunt's cars, and stuff like that. So that's why. But he could have made an effort, which he eventually did years later, and he's gotten better at it. But I'm gonna stop here because it's already 30 minutes in, and I don't want to make it long-winded because it's going to take, the longer it is, the longer it's going to take to upload. So I will do part 3 at another day. So come back and check that one out.